Shalom. First and foremost, I want to give all praises to the Heavenly Father, Yahweh, Bahasham, Yahweh Shai, Bahasham, Rachahakodash. Double honors to the apostles, the bishops, and the elders at Great Millstone who rule well. Peace and salutations, as always, to the elect. Prophecy Watch. All right, just watching the prophecies, tapping into a few things that are in line, all right, with our exodus out of this new spiritual Egypt, as the modern day Pharaoh is being cast down via the word. All right, he is going to use, the last of the little bit of power he has via his sword and the power over legislation, all right, to pass laws that are in line with persecuting, all right, those who have the true testimony, all right, even waging war on, all right, U.S. citizens, as we heard the talking point of the merging between the militaries of the United States and Israel. Tap into a little bit of that. And also, as we get closer and closer to the end, we can see the snare being laid, all right, as the scriptures tell us in the latter days, Revelation, the 12th chapter, all right, and this scripture is pretty much going to be read every video, but it says here in Revelation 12, as a matter of fact, start at 10, it says, "And I heard a loud voice saying in heaven, now is come salvation and strength, and the kingdom of our power and the power of his anointed. For the accuser of our brethren is cast down, which accused them before our power day and night." All right. And again, when you look up this word accuser, as we always go into, let's see here. It's categoreo, right? And pretty much, if you've been listening to these devils, pretty much the talking point of left wing, Antifa, domestic terror, all right, and pretty much just a gray area of, people who we can put into a box to accuse. We've seen them say that it is now time to address these particular people, and that's off of the back of him being cast down. All right, you got Dr. Fauci, who was found out to have ruined the lives of millions of people around the world by giving, horrible advice, right, and pushing, the works of Satan. I will show you how he pleaded the fifth. So off of the back of them being exposed and cast down and laid bare, he's in the business of, formulating his own accusation as we are testifying against him. But the word for accuser is categoreo, and it means to accuse before a judge, which, we are very, very close to that point where, we will be on the news, and some of us will be brought up on charges of domestic terror. So we have to prepare our spirits, okay, to the best of our ability with what we have to ultimately put off this world and not be offended by biblical prophecy, because it's coming. All right. We are in that point of the straight gate where, Yahweh Shai, he had to be, he had to go through what he had to go through, and it's our turn. All right. It says to accuse, brought before a judge, to make an accusation of an extrajudicial accusation, to be a plaintiff, to charge some with offense. Okay. And we are getting ready to be charged with the offense of treason. We're getting ready to be charged with the offense of being those who represent terror. Okay. But hey, the Lord is going to be with us. All right. And this is the only way out, which is why we constantly bring these things up. Again, these are not the best thoughts, but they are the right thoughts. As the Apostle Gabar once said, dealing with the perilous times that are associated with end time prophecy, Jacob's trouble, things that you Israelites are offended by. All right. We are embracing these things and preparing the flock, all right, to see these accusations be laid against the men of the Lord, and not to allow the incredulity, okay, and the lies and the manipulation and the AI and everything they're going to come with to make you falter in the faith. All right, because we know it's coming. All right. Again, Esau, Edom is not going to lay down without a fight. Okay. So again, the kingdom of heaven is associated with the accuser of our brethren being cast down. All right. And we know what the scriptures say. All right. Concerning Amalek. All right. Which are Edomites. This is the book of Numbers 24 and 20. And when he looked upon Amalek, let's read this in the NLT. Then Balaam looked over towards the people of Amalek. All right. As he was given the charge to put a curse on us, the Lord showed him how blessed we would be and how we would ultimately get the victory. All right. It says, then Balaam looked over towards the people of Amalek and delivered this message. Amalek was the greatest of the nations, but his destiny is destruction. See that? Amalek. All right. Amalek would be the greatest of the nations. All right. And this is all tied to Esau being the end of the world and Jacob being the beginning of it that followed. All right. So when you look at who has the control, who has, the wealth, who are even looked at as the chosen people. All right. It is the Amalekites. All right. So him being cast down first and foremost with this word, and then via the chariots and the deliverance is on the horizon, man. And that's how we get the kingdom. So again, let's read it again. And I heard a loud voice, Revelation 12 and 10. Now is come salvation and strength and the kingdom of our power and the power of his anointed. For the accuser of our brethren is cast down, and he's being cast down via this word. Okay. It says, which accused them before our power day and night. Okay. And they overcame him by the blood of the Lamb and by the word of their testimony, and they loved not their lives into the depths. So this is how we overcome. Again, this testimony is key, right? And when you look up this word testimony, let's look it up real quick. All right. It says martyria, or a martyr, basically. All right. It says a testifying of the office committed to the prophets of testifying concerning future events. So as we go out there on the highways and the byways and we do these videos, that is key to our victory as we are witnessing about Yahweh's return. All right. And going into the fullness of this gospel, man, going into the volume of the book. See that? But the blood of Yahweh is which is the ultimate factor of how we're covered and how we get that victory. All right. And through that, we have now access to this testimony. And now we know what we're up against, and we're able to put these lives off and be a living sacrifice for the kingdom of heaven to be built in the form of the throne of David. It says, therefore rejoice ye heavens, and ye that dwell in them. Woe to the inhabitants of the earth and of the sea. For the devil, okay, is come down unto you having great wrath, because he knoweth that he hath but a short time. Okay, so everything we're witnessing, the data centers, the talking points of, attacking left wing this, and, it's all associated with him coming down with great wrath, what he's doing to the air, what he's doing to the food, how bad things are getting on earth. As you can feel death in the air. We're in the valley of the shadow of death. And he's at the forefront of it. Okay, that's all associated with him coming down with great wrath, man. Because he knows that his time is short. As the scriptures say, the joy of the hypocrite will be but for a moment. And when the dragon saw that he was cast unto the earth, he persecuted the woman which brought forth the man child. And that's the prophets at the end of the day. The elect of the nation of Israel. Right, the bride of the Heavenly Father through Yahweh. Now, I wanted to start with this particular video here as Mr. Yuhu, which, there's particular people who believe he's not really alive. All right, we'll, in due time, we'll know that. But in the grand scheme of things, we're just going to deal with what's happening here as he, has met with Washington, D.C., all right, after the merging of the militaries, which I believe we'll tap into that as well. But he ordered Christian Zionists to fight against Americans who oppose sending troops to die for Israel. All right. as they're getting ready to send, all right, your sons and daughters to fight, because, you know, a regime change, over in Iran didn't work. Airstrikes didn't work. Now they're talking about sending boots on the ground to invade Iran. All right, which that's gonna, be associated with a lot of bodies, all right, being brought unto the slaughter. Okay. And we have to watch this because this is all associated with biblical prophecy. Remember, it said concerning him going over to that region, to fulfill this greater Israel mission, under the authority and rule of the small hats. America has been, brought to a point of no return. All right. And it tells you that when they go over there, their stink shall come up, meaning they're going to, lose, which ultimately things are going to continue to escalate and World War III is going to break out. But I wanted you to listen to what this man says. Now, it says here, Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Yehu met with the evangelical Christian Zionist leaders in Washington. All right, Christian Zionist leaders in Washington. All right. On Wednesday and ordered them to fight against Americans who oppose sending Americans to die for Israel. We're not opposed to it. All right. We pray that the Heavenly Father covers, because they're going to start with those 18 to 26, and then they're even talking about taking the age up to 43. As a matter of fact, we'll go here this video off of the channel Jay Reed. We'll just listen to a little bit of it, but people are furious after military draft changes in 2026. Let's play just a little bit of it.
Young American men could be automatically registered for eligibility for the military draft as soon as December, ending decades of self-registration. Why? To save money, according to a government agency. Currently, most men in the U.S. between the ages of 18 and 25 are already required to register for the draft. But this new rule would see men being registered automatically within 30 days of their 18th birthday instead of registering themselves. Proponents of the plan say that this will save the government millions of dollars that are spent every year reminding men to register, and allowing them to use that money towards readiness and mobilization rather than towards education and advertising campaigns, according to Pennsylvania Democratic Representative Chrissy Houlihan. Now, the rule is still being reviewed and must be approved before implementation. However, it has prompted fears of mandatory U.S. conscription in the event of a crisis. A wartime draft has been implemented by the U.S. government 6 times in the country's history.
Now, the one thing that I was hoping and praying would never happen, looks like it's becoming more of a reality every single day. Now, this right here is the mandatory registration of the Selective Service for a lot of men with the United States. And I always, I never ruled it out, but the fact that right now they are bringing out this new policy and bringing out these new rules really does spark up antennas. And as I watch a lot of these videos, and yes, they're going to come out and say, oh, it's here to save a lot of money. And, it's put in place and it's always been a thing. It's just now it's just changing it to make it automatic and make it easier for people and all these different things. While I completely understand that, my thing is, what a very convenient time to come out with this rule, right? What a convenient time. Out of all times during this presidency, out of all times during this administration, these past few decades, why right now, in the middle of an entire war over in Iran, why right now, out of all times that we have, you're going to come out with this rule? That's all I'm saying. And I'm not here to fearmonger. I'm not here to make you guys afraid. But people are in an uproar because of this situation. And honestly, here are the key points, just so we get the facts out of the way so you guys understand exactly what we're talking about, all right? The Selective Service System plans to automatically register eligible American men between the ages of 18 and 26 for the U.S. military draft by the end of 2026. They said they were going to implement this within December, but, the article says by the end of 2026. All right, the proposal will implement a requirement passed by Congress already to include automatic registration for every male citizen of the United States between those ages. So
there you go. And they were even talking about, making the age higher for giving people, with marijuana in their system, because they're desperate. But this is also prophecy because, all right, the scriptures talks about how these nations would have to prepare the mighty men, all right, for war. All right, the scriptures say, gather thy men, for the purpose of war. I believe that's in the book of Joel, the 3rd chapter. Okay. So all of these various different nations, but over here in America, yes, your sons, and they're going to eventually draft your daughters as well as things get worse, are going to be sent, all right, to for the purpose of putting boots on the ground in Iran in a crash out mission. All right. Well, going back here, let's get this out of the way. Going back here, Prime Minister Netanyahu met with the evangelical Christian Zionist leaders in Washington, D.C. on Wednesday and ordered them to fight against Americans who oppose sending Americans, all right, basically to fight in that war, which is to fulfill the greater Israel. It says he thanked his loyal supporters within the American evangelical Zionist community and urged them to stand up and fight back against Americans who oppose sending their taxpayer dollars to support the Greater Israel Project. All right, he says, we are descendants of the original Hebrews. Now, let me play this so you can hear them. All right, and then we'll move on to a few other things, man.
We're descendants from the original Hebrews of the Holy Land. And we are.
It's very interesting. They've never said that. There's always been this term Israeli and, being Jews, but now they're saying we are the original Hebrews. Listen to them.
We're descendants from the original Hebrews of the Holy Land. And we are the first part of that Judeo-Christian heritage which we cherish and which has given the world the civilization of freedom and faith. And again, we have to stand up and defend it. It's under attack from the rising tide of anti-Semitism and anti-evangelicalism. And it's not accidental that the two are coming under George attack, because we are one. And what I ask you is only one thing. Stand up. Stand up, be calm, don't cower. And when you're faced with an attack, what do? Attack back. That's all. That's my long speech. And, I'm very grateful to you for your consistent support, for the constancy of your friendship. And now it's time to fight, fight, fight. That's it.
You are fighting right now. We are fighting right now against the dark side, the leftist, godless dark side. But by the grace of God, we're going to win this battle.
The leftist dark side. Okay. And when you deal with that, all right, you Jakes are thrown in that batch. All right. Now, it says, the same day he urged American Christian Zionists to continue fighting. He also denounced the claim by Vice President J.D. Vance that Israel is trying to influence Americans to keep fighting. Yada, yada, yada. But this is all very interesting off of the back of this particular speech that was given by this mayor in New York. Now, we played this the other day. Let's listen to him.
Benjamin Netanyahu is a war criminal, the architect of a horrific genocide against the Palestinian people. He is responsible for the killing of more than 73,000 people.
Now, there was a reaction to this particular speech that he gave. All right. Now, this is a Muslim who was elected as mayor in New York, and he's stirring up things. He has, leftist, policies and ideologies. He stands with the alphabet community. He represents everything wrong, but it's all under the banner of being a Muslim. Now, let's go here real quick. All right, because again, they are laying a snare. All right, and we're going to show you a few things here.
Many people are calling New York City Mayor Mamdani a terrorist Really? So we're getting to this point. If they're willing to call the New York City mayor a terrorist for essentially not supporting Israel, not being gung-ho as a Zionist, then what are they going to label the rest of us, I think is a big question. I think this should be a warning sign to everybody that this isn't just a targeting of one person who, by the way, when he talks, sounds pretty reasonable about Israel, about Palestine. This is a warning for everybody. If they're willing to go after this guy, they're going to go after all of us. Here's Nancy Mace. She writes, at what point does being a terrorist sympathizer classify you as a terrorist also? So this is a representative in the U.S. Congress saying that being a terrorist sympathizer, which what is a terrorist to her? So sympathizing with Palestinians then makes you a terrorist also. This is where they're headed in their thinking, in their ideology. And this is extremely dangerous. The more Zionists we get into Congress, the more Israel takes over our elections and rigs our elections and pays for elections and brainwashes these congressional people. We're going to end up with laws and groups inside of covert groups that are going to be spying on and investigating American citizens who just happen to not support Israel, and they're going to be classified as terrorists. Here's this is actually a German. She tweeted this out. She's one of the editors of Bild magazine, which is one of the biggest German kind of tabloids out there. So German is even in on this. Germany's in on this. New York is in the hands of an Islamist extremist, she writes. Now, why would the Germans be involved in this one? And this kind of goes back to, they're trying to get a world war going. Germans right now are, for whatever reason, really hot for a war against Russia. Again, 3 times the charm, maybe in their mind. They're really itching for this war, but they can't get the United States to go along with it. But they are working this kind of interesting angle where if they could get the United States supporting Ukraine more, if they can get Republicans to support Ukraine, then they could maybe get a war with Russia, the war that they long for. But they're not going to be able to do it alone. They know they need to rope in the United States into the war with them. And so they've got Ukraine bombing Iran. And here's Mike Huckabee also talking about Mamdani as some kind of an extremist.
Chuck Schumer,
very nice people, but
sorry about that.
Chuck Schumer is a senator from New York. He's the most prominent Jewish elected official in America. He wrote a book last year, Mr. Ambassador, called Anti-Semitism in America. He has not condemned Mamdani's comments. What does that tell you?
He's a coward. He is a coward for not calling this out. And if he doesn't, then I hope that nobody ever calls him a Jewish leader again. I'm not even Jewish, and I think I'm probably a much more effective Jewish leader than somebody who will not say what Mamdani is, and that is an anti-Semite. You just can't go any other way with this.
Chuck Schumer is a senator from New York.
Sorry about that.
He's the most prominent Jewish.
We don't need to watch it again. So Mike Huckabee is calling him an anti-Semite. Here's also Sid Rosenberg saying pretty crazy words against Mamdani. I think pretty forceful words against him. Here he's on Fox News.
Well, very nice people, but trying to talk to Mayor Mamdani is like trying to talk to the IRGC. Okay, this guy is a terrorist. That's the bottom line. I'll say it. You don't want to say it. I'll say it. He's a terrorist. He's a jihadist. He hates the Jewish people. He hates America. He hates the Italian people. He hates the Irish people. He hates the German people.
Said he's a jihadist. Now let's look up the term jihadist. All right. All right. Jihad is an Arabic word that means struggle or striving to follow God's will. All right. Let's see. Jihadist. All right. It says a person who follows a militant and extremist. All right. Interpretation of Islam, believing that armed struggle and violence are valid and necessary. All right. And they are valid and necessary means to defend their religion. Again, now, which we're going to tap into this as well. Check this out. All right. Oh, you can't make this stuff up. All right. Mamdani demands America to pay millions in direct cash reparations to New York's black residents. All right, very interesting timing with all of this. Let's go back. We'll tap into that, but let's just, I'm just kind of bringing a few things out. I don't have much, but let's go.
People, unless you're Muslim, Mayor Mamdani has no use for you. He is a horrible person and maybe has perpetrated the worst American and Jewish hate in the history of this country. Those 2 people stabbed the other day in the Upper Side of New York City, that blood is on his hands. That blood is on your hands, Mayor Mamdani. We got to find a way to get this guy out of here. Maybe Dr. Naomi Wolf is right. Maybe that election wasn't what it looked like on paper. Maybe he really didn't win. But either way, this guy is the worst thing to happen to New York politics, maybe in the history of our state. He's a lowlife.
I mean, I think you may be a bit over
over your skis and labeling him a terrorist, and you're probably going to get flagged for that.
Why? Let me ask you this, because
the Oscars elected this guy. They knew everything about him before. Like, this is predictable. You talk about predictability. This is a predictable.
Let me ask you this: the Hamas guys that are in Qatar right now, they've never put on an explosive vest. They've never shot anybody. Would you consider those guys terrorists? Because I would. Okay, so his ideologies are in line with the terrorists. Mahmoud Khalil is a campus terrorist. You have to kill somebody to be a terrorist. You have to share the ideology. That's what this guy is. He's no better than a person who actually goes and shoots somebody.
And look for more and more of this propaganda to start being pushed in the news. All right. Again, it's going to go from this guy, and then eventually, all right, you're going to start to see black faces, all right, in particular groups and camps. All right. Again, this is all they have left. Again, as it talks about in the Mischief by Allah, in the book of Psalms, the 94th chapter, that's ultimately what he's getting ready to do. All right. Because this is all he has left. This is the book of Psalms 94. All right. And 20, shall the throne of iniquity have fellowship with thee, which frameth mischief by law? And there's going to be many people who follow their narrative, man. Okay, they gather themselves together against the souls of the righteous and condemn innocent blood. And that's what this is all about. But Yahweh Bahashem Yahushua is my defense, the rock of my refuge. All right, and see, the scriptures talks about how wisdom seeks out witty counsel. Let's get that real quick. In the book of Proverbs 8 and 12, I, wisdom, dwell with prudence and find out witty invention. And there's a witty invention going on as this narrative is being laid. All right. And it's under the guise of left wing and, you know, extremists, jihadists, and Muslims and this and that. And in the grand scheme of things, they're going to mix us with all of that. Now, let's go back here a little. Let's get a little bit more.
He respects that person. He likes that person. That makes him one of them.
Oh, there was a moment where I actually had hope for Republicans. You know, there was a glimpse of normalcy there for a minute, and that just went to shit real quick. I mean, what has happened? Now it's, oh, well, if we label you a terrorist and if you just agree with the terrorists, then you're a terrorist. Well, there was a time when Catholics, not long ago during the Biden administration, where pro-life Catholics were being investigated for potentially being terrorists. J6ers were terrorists. People who were against mandates for COVID were terrorists. Now, if you sympathize with Palestine, you're a terrorist. I mean, this is the problem with the word terrorism. The problem with it and labeling people terrorists is that you could just, any ideology could be just terrorism. But the real reason why they're mad at Mamdani is because he wants to arrest Netanyahu. He thinks that Israel's committed war crimes, and he thinks that Netanyahu, whose arrest is being called for by the ICC, should actually be arrested. He believes in international law. This is what Mamdani says. This is what actually makes him a terrorist, apparently.
Benjamin Netanyahu is a war criminal, the architect of a horrific genocide against the Palestinian people. He is responsible for the killing of more than 73,000 people.
It's even more than that. Now, check this out, all right? Mamdani demands Americans or America to pay millions in direct cash reparations to New York black residents. See, what's happening is Jake is being led to the slaughter. Let's get that real quick in the book of let's get Second Esdras. Let's do like this. Second Esdras, the 15th chapter, and the 6th verse, because what's happening is this word is stinging them. Okay, so ultimately, as we always go into, let's get it in the book of Isaiah, the 29th chapter, in the 20th verse, for the terrible one is brought to naught, and the scorner is consumed. All that watch for iniquity are cut off, that make a man an offender for a word, and that lay a snare for him that reproveth in the gate, and turn aside the just for a thing of naught. Again, they hate him. Amos 5 and 10, they hate him that rebuketh in the gate, and abhor him that speaketh uprightly. So they are laying a snare. This is all a snare. These are all actors in the grand scheme of things that are going to be used to bring forth, okay, the works of wickedness, man. Okay, this is the book of Second Esdras 15 and 6. For wickedness hath exceedingly polluted the whole earth, and their hoped for works are fulfilled. Okay? It's time out for wickedness, man. It's time out for Esau's rule. It's time out for the 2/3. It's time out for all of this madness. Therefore, thus saith the Lord, I will hold my tongue no more as touching their wickedness, which they profanely commit, neither will I suffer them in those things in which they wickedly exercise themselves. Okay, and see, Esau is so crafty. He allowed that individual to be elected, and when he was elected as mayor of New York, I told brothers, we gonna watch this guy. We gonna watch this Mamdani character, and I believe he's gonna be used, right? I remember I was around a few brothers. It wasn't a big crowd, but I was like, he's gonna be used for something big. He's gonna be used as a form of persecution. I didn't know how at that moment. I mean, we all know, Vocab Malone with the whole linking, the Hebrew Israelites to Islam, which we'll tap into a little bit of him as well. All right, we tapping in, right? But now that, we're getting closer and closer to the end, you can see, all right, the devil move. All right. It says here, behold, the innocent and righteous blood cried unto me, and the souls of the just complain continually. All right. And therefore, saith the Lord, I will surely avenge them and receive unto me all the innocent blood from among them. Okay. Behold, my people is led as a flock to the slaughter. I will not suffer them now to dwell in the land of Egypt. And see, this is what's happening here. You Israelites are being led as a flock to the slaughter, right? What is, let's ask that. What is a flock to the slaughter? Let's see. It says a flock to the slaughter, or a flock marked for slaughter, is a biblical phrase that describes a group of people or animals destined for destruction, ruin, or severe judgment. Okay. It says represents the nation of Israel or people of Judah. Marked for slaughter means the people faced a coming punishment or doom because of bad choices, unfaithfulness, or corrupt leaders who did not care for them. All right. And again, our people are being led as a flock to the slaughter, man. See, but the Lord, again, this is when we talk about Jacob's trouble. Again, it says in the very next verse, but I will bring them with a mighty hand and a stretched out arm, and smite Egypt with plagues as before, and destroy the land thereof. So as we always bring out, let's get that in the book of Jeremiah 30, right? This is, our deliverance from captivity is associated with what? Trouble. Jeremiah 30:7, alas, alas, for that day is great, so that none is like it. It is even the time of Jacob's trouble, but he shall be saved out of it. Okay? And you can see it being formulated because you're going to be a target. And this is not going to do anything but get these, militia, these militant groups, these militia groups, all right, more and more angry as they're looking for a reason to blame you Israelites. So out of nowhere, this nigga just, pops up talking about giving Jake reparations right after he goes, viral for calling, Yuhu a war criminal. All right, very interesting times, man. All right, let's get this. Yep. 2 days ago, he has an exclusive interview.
Hello, Mr. Mayor.
Hello, how are you?
Thank you for being here.
Thank you for having me.
You have been mayor for a little over.
All right, Charles M. Blow. So this is the you don't see what's going on here. You don't see what's going on here? Let's see the point where he talks about reparations. See if I can find it. A lot of this is on the fly. It's been a long week. A lot happening. Well, today especially. It's been crazy personal things, but it's all good, man. I'm just, I have to do something. I have to push this word out on some level, man. So I have to feed the sheep on somehow, some way. So Lord willing, this little bit of food is still food, even if it's a little leftovers in there. Let's see here. Bread bar. Boom. Let's see here.
When you were running for mayor, you submitted a written statement to a reparations convening that read in part, New York City participated actively in the slave trade and furthered its legacy through racist institutions, policies, and laws. The city should reconcile and repair this legacy of slavery, stolen wealth, and discrimination. You added that you were proud to support the new Reparations Commission examining Wall Street's complicity in the slave trade. One of these commissions is set to release its final report next summer. If a commission studying reparations in this city recommended cash reparations for people impacted in New York City, would you support that recommendation?
First, I want to say that I stand by what I submitted.
Yes.
It's the truth.
Yes.
It's not a personal assessment. And we often think about...
And again, when you get, oh man, when you get Psalms 83, all right, remember the Ishmaelites are mentioned. Okay. This is the book of Psalms 83 and 2. For lo, thine enemies make a tumult. This is why we're crying on the Lord to, do something. Hold not his peace. Keep thou not silence, O power. Hold not thy peace and be not still, O God. For lo, thine enemies make a tumult, and they that hate thee have lifted up the head. They have taken crafty counsel against thy people and have consulted against thy hidden ones. Right? Let's look up the word crafty. This is crafty counsel. All right. All right. To be subtle, shrewd, crafty, beware. Let's look up what is an example of crafty counsel. What is crafty counsel? Okay. No. Crafty counsel, meaning, all right, making a secret, sneaky, or sly plan or trick to harm someone. Clever, cunning. Remember, the serpent was more subtle than any of the beasts of the field. See, but the Lord has raised up the prophets and we're on his ass constantly. Okay. So it's crafty, clever, cunning, usually in a bad or dishonest way. It's a conspiracy. Okay.
Slavery and the complicity in slavery as being exclusively to certain geographic areas of the country.
Right.
Here in New York City, we were very complicit. And so I look forward to whatever those findings are. I can't give you an answer in advance of them, but I can tell you that this is critically important because...
So they just sit him down with a Jake, right? And the fix is in, okay? Psalms 83 and 3, for they have taken crafty counsel against thy people and have consulted against thine hidden ones. They have said, come, let us cut them off from being a nation, that the name of Israel may be no more in remembrance. Okay? For they have consulted together with one consent. They are confederate against thee. The tabernacles of Edom, the Ishmaelites, which are the Arabs, so-called Arabs, Moabites, and the Hagarenes. So, again, we see this happen. We see this being formulated, man. Right?
This is also what it looks like to acknowledge what history truly was.
You and the president have had a contentious relationship, but you visited...
And we're living in a time where the president is trying to erase the history of slavery. Now you got this dude raising up, cursing out Netanyahu and talking about, giving niggas, cash reparations. Like, okay, man, come on, dog.
White House at least twice, and both times it seemed to be cordial. And last time you published a photo of you two smiling, saying you agreed to work on housing in the city. But last week, the president shared a video calling you and Democratic Socialists, quote, hardcore communist bastards who must be stopped, criminalized, and deported. Now, you told the New York Times...
See that? Listen to what Trump called them.
You and the president have had a contentious relationship, but you visited the White House at least twice, and both times it seemed to be cordial. And last time you published a photo of you two smiling, saying you had agreed to work on housing in the city. But last week, the president shared a video calling you and Democratic Socialists, quote, hardcore communist bastards who...
Let's see if we can find that. Trump. See if we can... There you go. There we go. This is all on the fly, y'all. I had the few things. I want to see the video. Hold up. Trump shares video calling Mamdani a hardcore communist bastards to be deported. See that? And I'm sorry for laughing. You got certain niggas coming on the comment board cursing me out for laughing. Like, god damn, boy. Let's see if I can look it up this way. Trump.
Donald Trump just sent Mamdani a warning.
We can't be hoodwinked. We can't be taken advantage of by people that say you're going to have a free home. You're going to get free rent. Everything's going to be free. What they don't say is a year later, everything is going to end up in squalor, destruction, and death. And also death for our country. So we have to stop the threat of the communist rhetoric that you're hearing right now, because these people, they don't act. I'm very happy a poll came out. It said they're highly educated, but doing very poorly. In other words, they're losers. They went to school, they got a good education. Now they don't know what they're doing. So what they do is they complain about people like yourselves that have done so well. But we can't let the communist ideology we don't want to even think about it for this country. It would be terrible.
Let's go to chat. How can African Americans see what it says? How can African Americans be tied to communists? All right. Communist Party's involvement in civil rights in the 1930s and 1950s. During the Jim Crow era, the Communist Party USA actively recruited Black Americans by speaking against segregation, lynching, and economic inequality. Yada, yada, yada. Government suspicion during the Cold War. The Black Power era, some organizations in the late 1960s adopted ideas influenced by Marxism or socialism. Black Panther Party. All right. We know Martin Luther King was, tapped into that, advocated community self-defense. All right. So the Black Panthers could be associated with Marxism. All right. And communism. Even when Black Panthers members held a range of views, they did not represent all Black Americans. Again, all they need is a face. All they need is a group. All they need is a way to tie it to it. All right. Modern progressive activism. Some contemporary racial justice organizations include activists who identify as democratic, socialist, progressive, or Marxist. For example, some founders associated with Black Lives Matter, right, have publicly discussed studying Marxist theory. Okay. And again, of course, it's not going to be tied to all Blacks, but we know all Esau needs is a way to link it. Just like right here in this interview, Mamdani's sitting with a Jake. Mamdani is talking about giving niggas reparations. Mamdani, all right, condemn Yuhu openly on the news. Okay. Yada yada yada. Why some conservatives draw a connection. All right. Yep, from a biblical perspective, you're approaching the question through scripture. I didn't ask nothing about the Bible, but here, again, biblical critiques ideas found on many political system and warns against oppression and exploitation of the poor. All right, woe to you who decree unrighteous decrees. Woe you now, rich men. Isaiah 10:1, James 5:1-6. All right. Yeah, and all I just needed was, a way that they're going to link it. All right, because when you hear him just throw out these, these terms, leftist, Marxist, communist, just know that he has a way that you niggas can be, all right, linked to that. Okay. And just 8 months ago, he's in the White House with Trump. So this is all a act, man. Okay. Yeah, the internet's kind of acting up, but anyway, he called him a communist bastard. See if we can pull it up here.
We stand on a precipice.
Democratic socialism must be criminalized and leaders deported. All right, you could watch this video. But
must be stopped, criminalized, and deported. Now, you told him.
Yes. It's not a personal assessment. And we often think about slavery and the complicity in slavery as being exclusively to certain geographic areas of the country. Right. Here in New York City, we were very complicit. And so I look forward to whatever those findings are. I can't give you an answer in advance of them, but I can tell you that this is critically important because this is also what it looks like to acknowledge what history truly was.
You and the president have had a contentious relationship, but you visited the White House at least twice, and both times it seemed to be cordial. And last time you published a photo of you two smiling, saying you had agreed to work on housing in the city. But last week, the president shared a video calling you and Democratic Socialists, quote, hardcore communist bastards who must be stopped, criminalized, and deported. Now, you told the New York Times that this is something that, you don't even blink your eye in anymore. Could you describe your evolving relationship with the president?
It is a relationship that clearly has many a disagreement, and neither of us are shy about their disagreement. I've been clear with the president.
You can see this dude's an actor. Now, so there you go. Mamdani demands, niggas get reparations, out of nowhere. You see people arguing in the comments, but very interesting, and the timing is very interesting. Now, this is all, while this guy, as you see here, this is a video vocab loaded 4 days ago. He's at a particular church. All right, not many people there, but he's talking to, a group of people about understanding Moors. All right, which when you understand the Moors, they were birthed out of the the Moorish Science Temple, going back to Noble Drew Ali, and eventually that's what the Nation of Islam, came out of, you know, Farad Muhammad, who was supposed to be the reincarnation of Noble Drew Ali, who looked to be an Edomite, came and founded, the Nation of Islam. And then he disappeared, just a bunch of agents. Then you get the New Wabians, which Dr. Malachi York, Brother Polite was once involved in that. Then you had the 5%ers. Again, this is groups with just a bunch of different ideologies, a bunch of, different, myths and, a bunch of, merging of when you listen to, remember the 5%ers, was a movement in New York. What's the knowledge of the day, son? Just a bunch of Jake, getting into laws and different things like that. And then, boom, the Israelites. Okay, and as you can see here, 5 eras of Hebrew Israelism, work-based salvation, which we don't teach. You can, now you have to have works. James does say faith without works is dead. Okay, the scriptures in 2nd Ezra, the 9th chapter, it lets you know that through your faith, there's going to be particular things you do. All right, it says ethnic hierarchy. All right, now what is an ethnic hierarchy? Let's let that load. What is a ethnic? Goodness gracious, this internet, man. Yeah, out of nowhere. You see how these people, it's clear. All right, it's clear as day. That they're getting ready to come. All right, because we're no longer in that dumbed down weak spirit. So they have to, just like at the time of Balaam when we read in Numbers, they have to figure out a way to cast a stumbling block to throw us off. Okay. An ethnic hierarchy is a ranked social system where different cultural or ancestry groups are placed at different levels of power, status, and wealth. Now, the Israelites are the greatest kingdom, all right, and those are the chosen people of the Heavenly Father, okay? This internet is acting crazy. The now of the Trinity, degradation of Christ's deity, because we don't believe in a virgin birth, produces spiritual unbalance, all right? Now, we just heard this guy here say that they are the original Hebrews. They are the children, basically saying they're the children of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. And this is why they're fighting, all right, not only to, ethnically cleanse the land, but they want more land. Okay, because basically the Bible promised it to them. Meanwhile, there's no talking against them. But you have this devil here, all right, which he's afraid.
Very weak, and it's very rare. Degradation of Christ's deity. You'll say, is Jesus God? They'll say, yeah, all black men are God. Well, that's not really.
Well, who the world ignorantly calls Jesus is a God. He is a power, but he's not the most high God. That's clear in the scriptures, man.
What we're talking about here produces a great spiritual unbalance. But now let me show you some extreme examples from some of their art, of their eschatology. So
now, this was a sign that was made in 2007 by a guy who's no longer even in the camp. All right, but look what he's doing. All right, they're preparing for the persecution, man. We've been telling you all this, and you thought, you guys look at vocab and you say, man, I'm tired of vocab. Well, we're tired of him too, but guess what? All right, he's going to be used, all right, for very, very important. And look what he got in the background. All right, that white meat, that other white meat, all right, white Jesus. This is all white supremacy. But look, while all of this wickedness is going on with these Edomites, right, he's blaming you. Look at their art. They want to kill us. They want to chop our heads off.
Such as this GMS created image that literally uses the picture from Independence Day in it. And it's got them floating around carrying heads because they believe they're going to be part of the angelic attack on America. They're going to
see that? The angelic attack on America. See that?
have superpowers. That's why they're flying, and they're going to finally get revenge on Edomites, especially who were white people and Jews. And other nations,
See that?
like the Arabs, are going to get it too, but they're the first off. So
that's really all he's worried about is Esau.
They got poor little Timmy by the neck there. You know? Another extreme example, all nations shall bow down to the Israelite black man. Oh, yes. Even the proud white man who is the GD devil that the Bible speaks of. You got the UFOs there again.
The guy in the S&M is intriguing.
Shaft! Yep, you see the Jews are in the front bowing down. And the white man's destiny, according to the Holy Bible. What is it? Well, you're going to be in chains, including the babies. Or just a quick question. What's a baby going to do for you? I can't even get my kids to clean their room. You think a baby's going to be a very good servant? You got to take care of the baby. Just saying, you know. But last thing we're going to look at in regards to the Hebrew Israelites, and remember, not all believe what I just showed you. This is the extreme version, but the guys out on the street usually are the extreme ones. It's the ones who are on the street who are a little more moderate, so-called.
All right, and what's the title of this video? Understanding Moors, Nation of Islam, Nuwabians, 5 percenters, and Hebrew Israelites. All right, there you go. All right, so he's linking Islam to the Israelites. All right, it's just that simple. All right, and we don't have to listen to any more of his rhetoric. We already know what they're going to do. Let's get the book of, let's go back to Revelation 12, right? Revelation, the 12th chapter. And the internet's acting up, so I'm gonna probably just go ahead and end this. I did have a few other things, but you know how it is. Revelation 12 and 17. And the dragon was wroth with the woman and went to make war with the remnant of her seed, which keep the commandments of the Most High and have the testimony of Yahweh Shai. And the dragon represents the revival of Rome. All right, this beast system that is, you know, has dominated the earth, but they're at their end. Okay, and he's very, very worried. Again, in the previous chapter, Revelation, the 11th chapter. All right, Revelation 11 and 11. You know, after we went through our slavery and all of the various different things we had to go through, it says, after 3 days and a half, the Spirit of life from the Heavenly Father entered into them, and they stood up on their feet, and great fear fell on them, which saw them. Meaning they're looking at us. Right? They're paying very close attention to us. And synonymously, they're formulating, right, a snare. Right? They're laying a snare for him that reproved within the gate. All right? The word saw. That whole red hole.
Strong's G 2334. Theoreo. Theoreo.
All right, to be a spectator, to look at, behold, to view attentively. Okay. Now, these are particular pictures, right? These are pictures, you know, he has, you know, the particular pictures, but his people actually did this to us. And it's real. It's not art. We can go to, you know, you have a book called Without Sanctuary. Let's look that book up. I have it somewhere. I'm gonna pull that out. Without Sanctuary. There's a book you can buy. Well, it used to be on sale, but it's a book that, yeah, there you go. Without Sanctuary. Let's go into some of the images in that book. See if they'll pull it up. Yep. Jake hanging from trees. There was one where you had, you know, damn near thousands of Edomites watching Jake burn. And these were postcards. So this actually happened to our people. It's not just art. Okay. See if it'll come up here. Yeah. There you go. Look at that. Fair use, fair use. Look at that. Dude was burned, lynched. Look at all these Edomites there watching this Jake. You know, I have this book. I have to find it, man. I got this book somewhere, man. All right, and this is just an inkling. Right, yeah, this is just an inkling of what they did. Okay? This ain't art. This ain't drawn. This is American history.
The legal definition of lynching is when 3 or more persons, which constitute a mob, put someone to death extra legally without court sanction, without.
And little girls. Why would the babies be there? So you worried about the babies?
Legal sanction. And they do it for the purpose of tradition and or whatever their version of justice is.
I'll bring this up. Esau, we're not the only ones who did it. So yeah, you can look. You can just type in "without sanctuary." This is a playlist. If you want to, tap into some of that. The internet's kind of running slow, but again, they are getting ready to accuse you, Israelites. Psalm 62:4. They only consult to cast him down from his excellency. They delight in lies. They bless with their mouth. All right. But they curse inwardly, man. They're getting ready to come with it, man. All right. Psalms 51, man. All right. Well, Sirach, the 51st chapter. Let's get that. See if I can get that to come up. But and this is off of the back of these devils. Come on.
Fauci sat in front of a Senate hearing today. It was the Senate investigation into the origins of the COVID-19 pandemic. And he pled the fifth over 100 times. He answered 0 questions, not even questions about the color of his tie. He refused to answer any and all questions whatsoever. So what was this hearing all?
So all of this wickedness these devils are doing, we'll just leave that there because it's tripping. All of this wickedness these devils are getting caught doing. All right. But the focus is always going to be somehow on how to trip Jacob, how to, get Jake entangled in their plans. And it's all good. It's all good, man. All right. Sirach 53:1 or 51:3. You helped me when no one else would. In your great mercy, you saved me from the many troubles I have known, from the glaring hatred of my enemies who wanted to put an end to my life, from suffocation and oppressive smoke rising from fires that I did not light. All right. From death itself. All right. So we're going to be in fires that we did not light. All right. But they're going to be blamed on us. From vicious slander reported to the king. See? From vicious slander reported to the king. All right. And here we go. Here we go. All right. And people are tired of him, but at the same time, he doesn't give a damn. All right. When the going gets going, they're going to use him. All right. To give the history of who we are and a breakdown. Watch. Okay. He's going to have clips. He got clips. He got a whole team. He's going to have clips. All right. And many other things. But remember the story of Haman. Okay? Remember the story of Haman, man. So, let's see here. Yep, American humiliation. Tucker Carlson calls for lawmakers pushing Israeli military merger to be hanged for treason.
The Republican Party has decided that the interest of Israel is more important than the interest of the United States. There are a couple of exceptions, Marjorie Taylor Greene, Thomas Massey, and they were driven out of the Republican Party. So it tells you what the priority is. The priority is serving Israel. And even if I liked Israel, which I do not, because it's committing genocide, I think we deserve sovereignty. So it's really that simple. Well, I think America lost its sovereignty many years ago. I mean, CIA and Mossad have worked together, in some cases, really as one for over 60 years. I mean, and of course, Mossad has fed repeatedly disinformation lies to American policymakers over decades, including the lie that Iraq had weapons of mass destruction. That fundamentally came from Israel. There's no dispute about that. The lie that killing the Ayatollah, the Shiite Pope, would lead to the collapse of the Iranian government. No American intelligence agency said that. Mossad said that. And Netanyahu told Trump that. So there's a long track record of the United States, its people, its 350 million people, being misused by Israeli intelligence. And so the idea that you would merge them formally is a generational disaster. It's also humiliating.
Again, so this civil war that's brewing here in Babylon the Great, okay, again, in the midst of that, you Israelites are going to be plugged. You're going to be accused within it. All right, as they go like madmen sparing none. Okay, you will be within that. Now, there's another video I had. Let's see if I can find it. Lawlessness in America. This is it. Yep. See if it'll load.
Rift between hardliners and the developing news coming out in the last 48 hours that the war that's taking place in the Middle East might be making its way here to U.S. soil. Take a look at the latest headlines with me so that way you can see it for yourself. You can see here, sleeper agents poised to wage war in California put U.S. on high alert as a map of their top targets has emerged. And you can see the date right here, published July 20th, 2026, in the last 48 hours. Now, let me know your thoughts in the comments. Are you concerned about the threat?
And remember, those sleeper agents will be working on behalf of Iran, Islam. All right, you get it.
Threat of potential attacks here on U.S. soil. We've heard the warnings of sleeper cells, drone attacks, cyber attacks, and specifically, we are receiving warnings yet again for the state of California. So we're going to be diving into all the details. I'm going to be getting you caught up on this. And this is a reminder as well, as take a look. Just a couple of weeks ago, we had heard the warnings coming out from the IRGC. Witkoff and Kushner were on their way to Qatar for Iranian talks as the IRGC hardliners had demanded that the death of the supreme leader be avenged on U.S. soil. They said that we must see the shedding of U.S. blood on U.S. soil to avenge the death of the supreme leader. And now we're hearing that there are warnings coming out to California about the threat of potential attacks of sleeper agents in the last 48 hours. Now, in addition to that, you'll recall this month as well, July 9th, take a look here. Jeb Bush sounded the alarms of Cuba's fleet of 300 Iranian suicide Shahed drones that could reach the United States. So we're receiving this warning today. We received a couple of weeks ago the warning of the kamikaze drones. We'd also received warnings as well about sleeper cell attacks on U.S. soil. And we had received one specifically for California before as well. Take a look, March 11, 2026, when the war had started, the FBI had warned Iran aspired to attack California with drones in retaliation for the war. And we're hearing that this is essentially still standing right now today, July 22nd, 2026, with a whole new set of warnings coming out in the last 48 hours. We're going to dive into all the details. Nationwide actions within 24 hours if there is an imminent threat or a U.S. military move against Cuba. So again, wow. And so I just want to point this out for you guys. The concern is a coordinated nationwide action within 24 hours. Now, these are the warnings that we have heard for quite some time, and that is the FBI has let us know, DHS, the concern is not just an attack, but a coordinated attack, orchestrated, sleeper cells waiting to initiate simultaneously to wreak havoc all throughout the United States. So it's not just like there's a bomb that goes off. There's a bomb that goes off while the power goes out, while the water shuts down, and your phone goes dead, initiating simultaneously, having cyber attacks, sleeper cell attacks, bombs going off. So the concern is within a 24-hour period, event after event being initiated simultaneously, one after the other like dominoes. This is the concern. Coordinated nationwide actions happening within a 24-hour period.
And this is going to justify the flock cameras, the AI overtake, spying, the suspension of the Constitution, everything we've been saying. You can see it being formulated. A sleeper cell is a small hidden groups of undercover agents or terrorists who move into a target country, live normal lives, and stay active until they receive an order to act. All right. So you're gonna see an uptick of these talking points. Let's see here. Yeah, that's pretty much it. This is off of GMS Yawasop, hopeful elect 777. Lawlessness is coming to America.
Inside of the United States of America, we are about to experience a cataclysmic breakdown in the rule of law. The rule of law.
Yep, and subscribe to his page, GMS Yawasop, hopeful elect 777.
Is a political weapon. It does not deserve the power that it has been given. Officially, the rule of law meant that everyone in a country was equal before the law. What happens when a country still has courts, they have police, judges, elections, and laws, but people no longer believe that those rules are applied equally? You can already see that inside of our country, that we are in the early stages of a breakdown. Soon the rule of law will be dead and over. It's one of those phrases that everyone repeats because it sounds important or even civilized. Politicians say it, judges, international criminal courts. Nobody stops to think or even ask what happens when that social contract dies. We're seeing it right now. The law is supposed to stand above the rich, even above the poor. Politicians, cops, judges, and shoot, it's supposed to be a law governed above the government itself. The U.S. Constitution establishes a government whose authority comes from the people and not against them. It's supposed to be difficult enough to change that whoever controls the government can't just rewrite the rules to punish who they hate and benefit who they party with. At least that's the sales pitch. But when you really watch how our country operates, I'm seeing something very different. We're dead. As a law-based nation, we are dead. Laws selectively enforce the beneficiary. The officials get protected and citizens are being crushed over technical violations. This is while the government changes the definition. And they do it when the old rules start to lessen either their money or their power. Let me tell you, next year is going to suck. If you think that the old draconian laws of the early to mid 2000s were bad, just wait until every glance that you use on your phone or down the street becomes scrutinized by an algorithm. We're looking at burning courthouse territory here. Police stations getting abandoned. And like in much of the world, from the Taliban to South America, gangs will begin to control entire regions. It already started, and that's scary. People stopped believing that following the rules will protect them. We already see it right now. Small business owners, they're told to watch as thieves walk out of their store without consequence. But the business owner, well, he's penalized with fines over a missing permit. Homeowners are put into prison. I'm talking don't drop the soap, somebody's girlfriend prison, if they choose to defend their property or their life. And the people trespassing, they have more legal protection than the homeowner does. The social contract underneath what you grew up with is already dead. One government tracks foreign influence, and they get called authoritarian. Another does nearly the same thing, but they say they're defending democracy. Canada, during the 2022 convoy protest, invoked emergency powers that forced or allowed banks to freeze accounts without legal or government representation.
So it's going to get bad, man. All right, and with this merger, right?
The House went and did it. They passed the
U.S. and U.S. and Israel militaries. That can definitely, in a grand scheme of things, lead to hardcore persecution on you U.S. citizens.
NDAA, which enshrined into law the U.S. and Israeli militaries merging together. There is some confusion on the final vote. It's really kind of unclear. It looks like Thomas Massie was the only Republican to vote no on the final passage. However, other reporting published shortly afterward, including The Guardian, states that 7 Republicans voted against the final passage, and six Democrats actually voted for it. So it was almost a completely partisan vote, where most Democrats said no to the bill. Most Republicans said yes to the bill. Some Democrats voted yes on it. A very small group of Republicans voted no to this. The Democrats, by the way, who voted no to this bill, it wasn't because we were going to merge our militaries together with Israel. That's not what shocked them, of course. It was everything else. It was just the...
And yeah, I was looking this up the other day. It says what's actually happening. This is saying it's not a proposal to make U.S. and military, U.S. and Israeli militaries into a single military with a unified chain of command. They will remain separate. What is actually being debated is legislation that would signify deepened defense cooperation, particularly through the annual NDAA. Some versions of the bill include provisions to expand long-term cooperations in defense technology, weapons, research, intelligence sharing. All right, because the Israeli government is given dominion over all of the, the ability to spy on you, U.S. citizens. So when it's all said and done, they will be merged, and they will be waging war on you, U.S. citizens, man. Right? This is all coming. As the scriptures say, there shall be like madmen, sparing none. And it's going to be whoever is going to be the elite and their AI and their left-handed, robots and everything against anyone who's against them, man. And again, you Israelites will be tied into that. Bet on it. Okay? It says expand joint research on AI, autonomous systems, cybersecurity, missile defense, quantum technologies, drones, and directed energy weapons, increase to co-development and co-production of military equipment, yada, yada, yada. Why people are calling it a military merger? Critics argue the language goes far beyond ordinary alliance cooperation. They say it could make U.S.-Israel defense cooperation much more permanent, create legal institution ties that will be difficult for future presidents or Congress to reverse, increase the likelihood that the U.S. becomes involved in conflicts affecting Israel. All right, so anti-Sem, that's going to be addressed here in America very soon. Expand integration in defense industries and emerging military technologies. Supporters that favor it contend that Israel is one of America's closest allies. Both countries face common threats from Iran and Iranian-backed groups. Sharing technology reduces costs and speed innovation. Joint missile defense and intelligence cooperation benefits both countries. A closer partnership strengthens deterrence in the Middle East. So the least of the flock, right? While people are concerned, the U.S. could become more deeply committed to Israeli military objectives. American defense policy could become more closely linked to Israeli security decisions. Increased technology sharing may reduce U.S. dependence in some defense areas. Congress could be committing future administration to a deeper partnership without extensive public debate. All right. And in the grand scheme of things, all right, this is becoming the United States of them.
They cited everything else, but they never brought up the merging with the Israeli militaries. That's something that, believe me, if Democrats were in charge, they would have baked it in there just as easily, and they would have passed it just as fast. So this is a sad, dark day. I think that all of these people that have voted yes, most of them Republicans, have proven to be traitors to.
There are some absolutely huge, mammoth changes, generational changes that we're talking about. I think there are a lot of Republicans, we'll be able to run against these anti-Israeli Democrats once we hit the general election, because the general electorate feels very differently from the Democratic base. But the general electorate, look at these numbers on Israel, the net favorability. They're all negative. They're all negative. Ipsos, minus 10 points. Fox, minus 11 points. Marquette University Law School Law poll. Look at that, minus 20 points. Pew Research Center, minus 23 points. Negative, 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 negative. Negative. But potentially a positive development if you think that this is a relationship that has needed some changing. And certainly the polls are changing fast. And as Arianton points out, this is not just a thing of like members of the DSA or whatever. This is a pretty broad-based phenomenon. And we want to give you just a little bit more of the historic context, some of the trends that are being observed in this polling. We're not just talking about the Democratic.
Basically, support for these small hats over here in America is nosediving. So they're formulating propaganda to address it.
All right, let's figure this out together. Donald Trump just addressed the nation of the United States of America, and he told us not to fight the information centers that are being built across the USA.
All right, so we see where it's going, but I just wanted to tap into that, man. You know, see here. 2nd Esdras chapter 16 and 18, the beginning of sorrows and great mourning is the beginning of famine and great death, the beginning of wars. The powers shall stand in fear, and the beginning of evils. What shall I do when these evils shall come? Behold, famines, plagues, tribulation, and anguish are sent as scourges for a moment. But for all these things they shall not turn from their wickedness, nor be always mindful of the scourges, man. So it's a lot of judgments taking place on the earth, man. America is being judged. Europe is being judged. Esau, Edom is being exposed. All right. And we will be back with more information. Shalom.